Welcome to Max's Models. I'm Max. Hey guys, today we are going to be doing the Roden 1/72nd scale Fokker Triplane. This is the F1 model. And this is ostensibly the airplane of Lieutenant Werner Voss, one of their top scoring aces, although there's still some debate over the color scheme of his airplane. Speaking of which, besides this outstanding box art on the back, they have a beautiful colored diagram showing you how to paint the airplane. However, there's still debate today over the color of Voss's cowling and wheels. Some say it was yellow, some say all drab. So make it what you want it to be. It has an end opening box that includes two runner trees, which will be bagged when they come out of the box. We also have some excellent decals, and we have an instruction booklet, which is quite good. And this model you will find is rather detailed for a 1/72nd scale World War I airplane. There is not a pilot figure, which is not a problem because you're probably going to show off the detail of that cockpit. The first step is to put the undercarriage and cockpit together and the propeller shaft, and then mount the guns. I would highly recommend, of course, all this be pre-painted. One thing I found right away that I wasn't too thrilled with is the lower wing is a butt joint. There are two little tiny tabs on there that you could drill out, but they're really not much in the way of alignment pins. So I just sanded everything down and fit the wing. And it actually did not give me as much problem as I expected, although alignment with the wings is going to be critical. It's easy to get one of them a little out of alignment with the middle wing. So I used the mid wing as the guide. I also made a little mistake here. I didn't do it in the order of the instructions. I did not pre-paint the wings or put the guns in place before I mounted them, and it became a little difficult later. By the way, there is an ammunition box and some details inside the cockpit. So yes, doing all this ahead of time would have been a much better solution. It's also unusual in that you have this back piece that goes across the top of the fuselage, so you don't have to worry about seaming up the fuselage or sealing it. Although you have to fit that edge, it tends to overhang just a wee bit. But it was an interesting way to do it. The real trick came when it was time to mount the upper wing. You do have a pair of molded V-shaped cabane struts, but the struts on the outer wing are individual, and it's actually quite tricky to get these in place and get everything lined up. What I would recommend you do is focus on getting the cabane struts just right. Probably better to use a CA glue with something quick setting, but you're going to need something to hold it in place. Take careful measurements. At this scale, of course, it's extremely delicate to get that right. Once you have the cabane strut secured in place and the glue is hardened, then I would mount the upper wing. You can, of course, go ahead and mount the outer struts next if you want, but I found it was a little easier to go ahead and mount it on the cabane struts, but you only have those 2 points. So getting the angle right is really important. As you can tell, I didn't quite pull that off as well as I thought I had. And then I mounted the outboard struts after that, just fitting them into place. They do have tiny little alignment pins. It's tricky. And this kit is quite the challenge, which led us to the next point. And I thought that wings were tricky. The landing gear was really tricky because it doesn't come with these struts. You have 4 independent landing gear struts. You have these tiny little alignment pins that go in these tiny little spots on that lower piece of wing area between the landing gear. And yes, that is wing area. And getting this lined up was a trick, and getting it to harden in place. Again, I recommend something that sets rather quickly because they do tend to drift. And then once I had everything in place and let it harden, I thought I had it right. I took it off and it wasn't quite exactly right. But at this point I was like, well, if I try to fix it now, I'm just going to tear stuff up. So I'm going to have to live with it. Again, this is tiny scale precision work with independent parts. And I would recommend taking several measurements, getting everything just right. Maybe try to come up with some sort of a jig or something to hold in place while it hardens. It's a trick. And I would add that I did not put the wheels on in advance as the instructions say to do, and I'm glad I didn't because it made it a little easier to deal with, but it's going to be tricky either way. After doing that, I was pretty much convinced that this model was going to be consigned to the back of the shelf. So once I had everything put together, it was off to the paint booth for primer and paint, and I used a light blue, which seemed to be this pale blue that they recommended. And then I used a brush to streak the paints over it. This paint scheme is inspired by Voss's airplane, but I'm not actually making his plane. And I just wanted to make something that sort of had that look to it. And I just used a series of brown, gray, and green washes to streak the airplane like his plane was. Although this is a somewhat more aggressive pattern, I think, than he had. I went ahead and used a hull red for the wheels and the cowling, which matched some of the pictures I saw of his airplane and looked close to the box art. But again, the actual colors of his plane are in doubt. And once I had that on, it was time for the decals. Now, the decals are excellent. They're extremely thin and they'll fold up or kink up on you very easily, so you have to be careful. But they lay flat and they look great. Maybe just the tiniest little bit oversized, which is a good thing. You won't come up short, and if they do look a bit oversized, you can go ahead and file it off. Now, I thought the airplane might be a little under scale at first, but I took some measurements, and according to my calculations, a 1/72nd scale Fokker Triplane should have a 3.9-inch wingspan, and that's almost exactly where this is at. So it actually scales out right, even though compared to some of the other airplanes, it didn't look like it. But then I remembered the DR1, because it has 3 wings, it does have a much shorter wingspan, and it was a short coupled fuselage. That's one of the reasons it was so agile. One of the trickiest parts to put on, ironically, were the little wooden wingtip guards at the bottom. They just, for some reason, they kept wanting to fall over. And they are teeny tiny. That's probably what made it tricky. It was hard to deal with. Is everything else is just so tiny. And while I'm talking about these wingtip skids, now is a good time to bring up a quick point. The box says that this is the Fokker F1, which is basically the pre-production prototype, but the kit actually has the tail of the regular DR1. The F1, they only made a handful, like 3 of them or 5 of them, and they had a few differences. One, they did not have these wingtip skids. In fact, it was lessons learned from the F1s why the wingtip skids were added. And if you notice in the artwork, there's no wingtip skids on the airplane because it's Voss's F.1. Also, the tail section, the horizontal tail plane on the pre-production models had a curve to the leading edge, and the later DR1 had a straight leading edge, which is what the kit has. Although the kit does come with 2 sets of ailerons, because there was a difference in the ailerons between the 2 aircraft that are explained in the instructions. The tail skid just glues onto the bottom. It's just a butt joint again, so I used a fair amount of CA glue to make sure that it had some strength to it. The only decaling glitch I had was putting the black cross on the tail. Like I said, they're prone to kink. And this one, unlike the ones on the wings and the fuselage, which come on white backing, this is just the cross, so it's particularly prone to kink. So you have to paint the rudder white on your own. But got it done, got some photos, and of course if I did another one, I'm sure I could do a much better job. But I have more Roden World War I kits on the shelf, and this was definitely a learning experience. Well, all right, guys, I'll let you enjoy the photos. You take care of yourselves, and as always, model on.